After college, it can be tough to make new friends, especially if you're the type of person who prefers quality over quantity. My guest today, Shianne Corley, is one of those quality friends in my life. One thing that makes our friendship unique is the way that we've grown to have the same values and share many of the same life perspectives, but came to those conclusions from two completely different backgrounds. Our friendship is one of adventure, curiosity, growth, and absolute acceptance and appreciation for the other person. In this episode, we discuss family relationships, what it's like to not be the quote-unquote fun friend, the road to finding your sense of belonging, and the consequences of our generation lacking hobbies. I could not be more grateful for my friendship with Shianne, and now it's time for you guys to meet her and find out why for yourself. Okay. Well, welcome. I'm excited.
Me too. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's going to be really easy. It sounds weird, but we're going to start off by just jumping into the questions, like right off the bat.
Okay.
We know each other too well to do the whole small talk phase.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. But there are 6 questions that everybody gets asked. Mm-hmm. It's basically like the little 6-pack. It's how we're going to break the ice. It's how our listeners are going to get to know you and your story. And then after that, we'll jump into more open-ended questions and we'll get into it. But with the 6-pack, you want to try to answer in like 1 sentence.
Oh.
We might expand. I've done it on
I'm going to need like 3 sentences.
Yeah.
Okay.
It never works. But the basis is that we want to make sure need the background info on you. That's important.
Okay.
So, Shianne, tell me, first question, who has been the biggest influence on your life?
My mom, but now that it's been in this past year, I think it's my dad. My mom has the biggest, I like her opinions the most, but the one who I really do things for is my dad, and that's who really influences how I make my decisions.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that it's changed.
Yeah, different.
Okay, different phases of life.
Mm-hmm.
Very important to remember that those things can change. Okay. I see, this is where I'm the bad one as the host, wanting to just immediately jump into a follow-up, but it's okay. We're going to come back to it.
We'll loop it.
We'll circle back. Okay. And so question 2, this is your what. What would be the title of your current chapter if someone were to write a book on your life?
Can I cuss?
Absolutely.
What the fuck?
I think you and the whole world are in that chapter right now, but I did not see that coming. That's great. Okay. Question 3. This is your when. When was the most transformative age or time period for you so far?
23 and 25.
Okay.
Not so much the in between, but kind of those specific moments.
Okay. 23 and 25. Why 2 ages?
23, I made the biggest life switch, and it was just in that moment, and then I had to navigate it. And 25 is when I found what I want to do and then had to re-navigate. But the in between was important, but it was the 2 defining moments that stood out.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So then tell me, this is your next question. This is your where. Mm-hmm. Where do you turn when you need to feel peace or comfort? This can be, a place, a person, anything you like, and go ahead and tell me why.
The beach, living in Florida, because it was just peaceful. If I was stressed, I went to the beach. If I was sad, went to the beach happy. And it's just there's something about being in the water and just feeling that and the sounds of the waves. And you just get to experience a totally different side of nature. And it was straight bliss.
Do you know where you would go now?
The gym.
Well, it was the gym before.
It was the gym before. I think now, I don't think I have a place of peace right now.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, so for our listeners who don't know Shianne, she just moved back to Texas from Florida. It's been a whirlwind.
We'll get into it. At least.
It's nice, hanging out with the parents again for a little bit.
I love kicking it with mom and dad.
Dude, me and Amy and Phil, it's
a pack.
Yeah, the 3 amigos right now. It's a great time. Just don't ask them what they think.
No.
Okay, so still figuring it out, but yes, I can see the beach being the place. That makes sense. Okay. And then, this is a good one. This is your why.
Okay.
Why did you choose your current job or career?
Oh, this one's hard to answer in a sentence.
First of all, tell them what you do.
So I'm a sports photographer.
Oof.
Oof.
Sounds nice.
It's a good time. It's a tough time.
So why the heck and how the heck? Actually, let's just start with the why. I'm getting off track again.
The why, growing up, seeing my brother play sports and moving to Florida, thinking I wanted to be a trainer and involved with athletes, seeing the influence that they can have and the joy and the things they can bring to other people.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be able to showcase that. And it's just something so different than anything I've experienced. And that, like, the why of chasing it is, it's simple for me. It's more just like the adrenaline, and you feel genuinely alive and just joy.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you see the flip side of that and you see the things that they get to do for others and I get to be a part of that, I think it's a really special moment to like bring realness to it.
Yeah. It is like, I feel like athletes are always people that you look at on a screen and like they're not human to you.
Right.
And so I like how, like, photography, you have a way to like humanize them by being like, oh, here's the things that they do when they're not athletes. But then you also are like, you can capture like the, I don't know, the intensity and the adrenaline that's goes on in a game as well.
Mm-hmm. It's two very different, like, editing the photos of the practice. For me, it was almost like, oh, well, these aren't very good because I've only been shooting games recently. And so because it's two totally different fields, it's the person versus the athlete in those two moments. It's not that anything is bad. It's just, it's two totally different sides of a person.
Mm-hmm. How did you, I'm going to get us off track for just 1 second because I have to stay on this for a moment. When you hit the moment of this is what I want to do, what was it in that moment that like solidified it? Like, why in that moment did you suddenly turn the page and be like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's go for it.
I think, so extra little backstory. I went to an event, Destroying, and I was with a friend. We were able to go out on the field, and I had never felt like I had a place. In high school, I never felt like I had a group, or even living in Texas.
It's like a little chills.
Little chills. Even like living here, I never felt like I had like a home. And that was something I really struggled with. And for some reason, I stepped on that field and like, I don't know if it was the feeling of the turf under my feet, but it was like, this is where I belong. Yeah. And I think it was that sense of belonging.
Yeah.
And
talk
like
about that all the time.
Yeah. And feeling almost seen, because it's a different level. Like I've talked about to you, like how people will go up to the guys, but not me. But then sometimes when they do, it's like, okay, they see me and they see my work. And you're seen as, you know, something bigger than you are. And it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But just the sense of feeling like I have somewhere to belong is what was like the defining moment of, this is what I'm going to do. How am I going to do it?
Sometimes I think you don't even know how much you're lacking a sense of belonging until you find your sense of belonging.
Yeah.
And it's like a weird wake up call, and it's like energizing. You're like, oh crap, like this is, I can't do anything else now.
Exactly. Okay. Like when I moved to Florida, I was like, oh, I belong. And I did feel like I belonged more in Florida than I ever did here. But then it's like, it was like at a scale 1 to 10, it was a 5. And then stepping on that field, it was a 10. But I really wasn't looking for it. And I didn't know it was still lacking. Because in my head, Florida was a 10 until that moment. And I was like, oh, this could be my life.
Yeah. So it's just like in every stage, like you've thought, okay, I belong. And then when you realize you didn't belong, like when you realize you belong somewhere else more, then in retrospect, you could see how those other
but that's why
kind of just like false.
Yeah. Like, oh, that was like a mirage. Yeah.
Did we just define maturing?
In like 2 minutes?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, I'll go back on track for now. The last question of your 6-pack. How would you like people to remember you?
I want people to remember me as someone who inspired them.
Okay.
Just because of things we'll get into and like the struggles that I've gone through, I want to be able to inspire everybody, but really people who have kind of walked similar paths, or especially girls like trying to get into this field. It's so difficult, and it's just every day is a battle. And are you going to show up and fight, or are you going to walk away? And so I want people to remember me as somebody who they could look up to and be like, if she did it, I could do it.
Yeah. And for the right reasons too. Like, I think it's weird when you see people just like working in a job to work in a job, but like being passionate is probably one of the best ways to inspire people, I feel like.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people are like, I want to be legendary. I want to be remembered for 100 years. Don't necessarily feel that way, but like I do want to leave something behind, but it doesn't have to be this massive thing. If it's one small change in somebody's life, like that's enough for me.
Yeah. And just knowing that like you left your mark, it's like that quote that you and I always talk about, or I guess I always say it to you, but I think it's Desmond Tutu, and it says, do your little bit of good where you are. It's those little bits of good pieced together that make the world a better place. And it just talks about like it, like I always internalize that as like make a difference now, here, where you can. And
that's where your feet are.
Yeah. Like it's the whole be where your feet are concept, right? Of, you know, you can worry about the fact that you're not making a difference across the world, but you don't have the ability to do that being where you are right now. So make the difference where you are and, you know, let that be a good inspiration to people. So that's cool. I like that. Okay. So now that we've gotten to know you a little bit, just a smidgen, because there's
just
a
little sliver
for us. I've got a ton of topics, but so we don't lose track of the questions that we just went through, let's go back and revisit that transition from, you know, your mom being the biggest influence on your life into your dad. And I think they're probably influences for very different reasons. So tell me when that switch happened and tell me what kind of inspiration each of them provided to you.
I think like my mom, I'm very lucky that her and I are as close as we are. She's my best friend, always has been. And like when I was born, that was like her goal because her and her mom weren't close. So she wanted to make sure she had that bond with her daughter. And so I was really lucky growing up with that. And because she was my best friend, you know, I went to her over my actual friends to get her opinions on things if I had a question. And just as I grew up, bigger life decisions came up and she was the one I went to. And then after moving to Florida and, you know, I just laid that on her. We went out there for 24 hours. I came back and I said, I'm just going to move. And her face was like, no, excuse me. But at the same time, she had a level of peace with it because she saw me out there and I was a different person and it was the person that I had wanted to be.
Sure.
And so then I think when I moved out there, that's almost when I started to realize like, yes, my mom is an influence and I always want her opinion because I think that it's really important because sometimes if I can't make a sound decision or if I have too many decisions. But then in the past maybe just 6 months, like the things I was doing as like bigger life changes and obstacles came my way. It was, okay, this is my mom's opinion. What would my mom do? But what's going to make my dad proud? And it's, you know, my mom is always the like rah, go get 'em cheerleader.
Yep.
And my dad's the realism. And sometimes it's a little negative. And I'm like, oh, that stung, Dad. Ouch. I didn't want to hear that, but it's what I needed.
I didn't ask to be brought back down.
Right. But I liked my cloud I was on. Yeah. I was having a good time. And so, you know, in our family, there's just been a lot of different struggles. And I put it on myself to be the person that makes a difference in our family, that makes a change, that leaves our last name with something.
Breaks the mold.
Breaks the mold. And like, you know, they always say there's like a black sheep in a family. I love my family. But I feel like it's almost like 3 black sheep and 1 white sheep. It's almost, and so it's the reverse. And so I put a pressure on myself to make sure that my family is proud of me. And that really comes down to my dad who came into my life when I was 3 and he's the one who raised me. And without him, I would not be this person. And so when I look back, the decisions that I've made in the back of my head subconsciously were, what would my dad do?
Why is it that this maybe sounds like such an elementary question, but why is it that you want to make your dad proud?
I think everybody wants to make their parents proud and be able to give back to their parents. And I think it comes down to that friend line where my mom is my friend and she's always going to be proud, but I want my dad to stand back and not just be proud because he's my dad, but be proud of me because I really have something to show for it.
Like if you were anybody, he'd be like, I would be proud of that person.
Exactly. If I were just somebody on the street and I just walked up, I was like, hey, here's my work, or, you know, look what I've done in my life, and he didn't know me, I would want him to say, wow, That's amazing. I don't know you, but I'm proud of you.
I'm kind of similar in the sense of wanting to make my dad feel proud, but in this dynamic where I want to feel like he respects me.
Yeah.
And like sees what I'm doing and like wants to engage with it and wants to be a part of it. Like there's this thing where you want to step from being like daddy's little girl into being like a respected woman who, you know, is viewed for like, I don't know, the woman that you become and like respected for that and that they're proud of that.
Yeah.
And they see that and are like, I could send you off into the world now. There are things that you feel the most proud of yourself for.
Yeah.
And you want them to be the most proud of those things as well.
Yeah.
And it's like that alignment of like, you see me, you know me, we can talk about like who we both really are and you're proud of that. And that's like the ultimate peak of like father-daughter relationship.
Yeah. And even the other week when, you know, things were going on with the family, I'd asked him a question that I never thought would cross my mind. But we were sitting there and it was just such a heavy moment and I just couldn't get that. I was like, don't ask it. Don't ask that question. Do I really want to know the answer? And then I did. And he told me for the first time in a long time, while I know he's proud of me, he actually said it. And that almost it validated what I'm trying to accomplish and what I'm trying to really just get started off the ground. Because while I've done a lot and it's amazing, I'm not anywhere close to where I want to be. And so, but hearing him say like, I'm proud of you, especially in a heavy moment where I know it was a sincere thing and he wasn't just saying it because I needed to hear it. He was saying it because he wanted to and he needed to say it too. Like, I think that was almost, it was that start of the peak of a dad-daughter relationship. Because I was like, okay, now I can let you in more. And that's what I've been wanting for a really long time.
I do want to take us in a little bit of a different direction now. So, I'm going to bring up something that's like a little bit near and dear to my heart because I know that you can relate to it. And I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
There's a topic that you and I, as very close friends who have like a really deep relationship and, you know, became friends over this long stretch of time. We've gone through a lot. We go in and out of these phases where we'll talk for a long time and we hang out all the time and then we don't talk for a long time.
I think we literally went like 8 months.
We did. We take these like
which is
breaks.
Just god awful. But
well, you know, you were in Florida. I was in Texas. But point being, like, we have this friendship that so similarly like parallels my other friendships. But not that long ago, it made me realize that it fits this mold that kind of tugs on my insecurities, which is the fact that I'm not the fun friend.
Yep.
Ugh, I hate to say it.
I know, because when you hear it back, you're like,
wow.
Me?
Oh, ouch. I swear I'm fun. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, not being the fun friend. And let me explain to our listeners what that means a little bit. So Shianne and I have had this discussion that, like, you have these different types of friends. You have your friends that you call when you are in a bind and you need something now and you need help or you need emotional support, or, you know, you have your friends who you call when you want to go to the bar and you want to forget about your problems. And then you have your friends that you call because a group of us are going to brunch and we all want to hang out together and take cute pictures and have a time. And we're never the ones on the list for brunch.
And then when they're like, why didn't you come? I'm like, I wasn't invited.
No.
Y'all forgot to text me.
Yeah, you're like, oh, because it was an afterthought.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah, when I liked your picture, then you messaged me.
Or like you text your friend and you're like, hey, what are you doing today? They're like, oh, I have these plans. And you're like, oh, and they're like, do you want to come? Like, we can just add you to the list.
It's fine.
Like, okay. And it's always been this insecurity of mine that I'm not usually the one that makes the first draft pick.
Yeah.
On those friend lists. I'm not like,
I didn't get the first round, not even the second one.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
I'm day 3.
Yeah. And so I think for a long time I felt like there was something wrong with me because of that, or like I was missing out on this side of life that I don't have. But yeah, basically I want to open up the floor with you for us to discuss what it's like to not be the fun friend and to be the girl that your relationships don't look like everybody else's does on Instagram. And what's that like? So why don't we hear about your experience now?
Well, it's not great. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's really not a good time. And I think that, like, you know, that sense of belonging and how I felt in Florida and just, you know, on the turf, whatever it was, I felt like I belonged there. Even in high school, like, there's that movie, Perks of Being a Wallflower. And, you know, they have their friend group and they're like the misfits. And that was kind of like my high school friend group. We were kind of the kids that came together because we didn't fit in with any of the other groups. So we just made our own. And it worked. And it was great and had wonderful friendships. And I'm still best friends with one of them out of the 8. And, you know, they're all still best friends. And so sometimes I reflect and I'm like, was it my fault? Did I do something? And really it was more situational of, was I even really ever close enough friends with them? And, you know, at one point I was working in high school and I started making, you know, work friends because that's what happens when you get a job. You're spending a lot of time with those other people. And with them, I felt like I belonged and I didn't feel like that friend who wasn't the fun friend because I was the friend that they were like, hey, what are you doing tonight? Let's go do something. And we would put the group together. And so it's like I got a taste of that. And it was really, really nice. And then my high school friends were like insecure almost about it, or more so upset. They'd be like, oh, well, you're hanging out with your work friends. And genuinely, I just wasn't having fun. And I didn't enjoy really hanging out with the high school group. While I loved them, we were just in very different spots in our life, even at 16. And so then growing up and kind of being that misfit, like, it's hard to make friends. Being out in Florida, it was like, and especially as an adult, because it's not like you're in high school and you see these people every day. But as an adult, one, a lot of jobs are remote. So you aren't talking to somebody every single day, or, you know, you probably don't live in the same state, whatever it may be. So that's hard. If you're at the gym, that's kind of a weird place to, like, eventually you can do it and you can make friends, but it's difficult being an adult and making friendships. And so, you know, I tried to get involved in like pickleball groups and just like different things to find that group that I really, really craved, and it just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And so like being the fun or not being the fun friend that people call, it weighs on you because you see the pictures on Instagram and while it's a highlight reel, they still got to live that moment and I didn't. And, you know, at the end of the year when everyone's putting together these cute little videos, I'm like, what do I have to show for it? I just have a bunch of pictures of me and my cat.
It's just me hanging out with me.
It's just me on FaceTime with my mom. Like,
well, and
you know,
I value my independence. I really genuinely love spending time with myself. I have for a really long time now. I think I just also want to be the girl that,
like, I want to get cute
I want to sit at the table, right? Like I want to, or at least want to be invited. And so I try to say yes to those things. I think I'm very much so still learning about how to deal with this. And I'm very much so seeing how I'm so proud of who I am that I want to be able to hold that, like, as it is. Like I want to be exactly who I am now and fit into a group like that. And I'm not sure that's ever going to happen.
That's like the key to it. Can I be myself around multiple people, or can I only be myself around one person at a time?
Yeah. Like would I rather, and maybe this is where I get lost in it, is I'm like, do other people are they just comfortable there? Like, do they just not, like, I love having conversations one-on-one, and I love that more like intimate setting. And sometimes that's when I'm like, oh, maybe it's something wrong with me. Maybe I just don't do well.
Yeah, I'm just not, maybe I'm just not the fun friend.
Maybe that really is it. But I feel like there's got to be so many people out there that relate to that feeling of like, I want to be in a group where I fit in as me and not just a part of me, as all of me. Because if I can hang out with you and I can bring all of me. I can hang out with Audrey, my best friend from kindergarten, and I can bring all of me. And I have several friends that I can do that with, but no big group where I feel seen and heard and understood. And then I feel like I end up really missing a side of me that I would like the world to see more of. I would like,
because I have a fun side. I know I'm a fun person. I know I'm a fun person. But it's like other people. And also, like, while we're on the topic of like, you have this friend that you can be yourself with, and this one, it's very hard to mix friend groups.
You can't bring them together.
You can't, because for whatever reason, it just very rarely will it work. Otherwise, crickets.
It's so uncomfortable because it's like,
it's almost like you know a version of me that they don't, and then it's just kind of this weird dynamic, and you're like, oh,
it's like, you know, I have a bunch of inside jokes with you, and I also have a bunch of inside jokes with them, but like we don't all get the inside jokes.
Exactly. And so it's hard because then you don't have that group, and not that you need 100 friends. If I could have just like 5 like great ones, let me rephrase that. I have probably 3 to 4 really, really solid friends that like those are my go-to people. But they're my go-to people when I kind of have like shit going on and I really need some advice. Like with you, that's kind of like sometimes, you know, but also like we can get together and just laugh and shit talk all day, and it's so much fun. And so we do have both of those sides. But like, I want to be, you know, I want to be invited to lunch.
I want to do that in a group.
I want to do that in a group setting. I want to go get mimosas with my friend and, you know, have a bunch of us there.
So basically, if you're listening to this and you're a misfit, let us know.
Where do you live?
We're gonna start a group chat, a community, but the group chat's gonna be silent because I'm the first person to tell you right now that I don't talk in group chats.
Well,
I'm so bad at it. Don't ever, like, you put me in a group chat, and I say this to Audrey all the time. Okay, so maybe it won't be silent. At least there's you. Because, I'll
just, like, send, like, tag you at every comment.
You literally have to call me out directly.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. You put me in a group chat, and I want to be in there. Like, I read what's going on. I check the messages. I will not engage. I will not.
You read it, and you're like, cool.
Because I'm always just like, I don't really feel like I have anything, like, great to add here. Like, I'm either going to make a joke that's, like, not going to land, or somebody's already said exactly the response that I would normally say. So then people are like, does she even, like, want to be in here? And I'm like, no, I swear I do. Please don't take me out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm holding on to this group chat for dear life.
This is all I have.
I don't have any friends. Like, but that's the thing, is that I think it's another reason why I'm like, okay, I'm just not the fun friend. Like, I must actually be so boring, because then I watch these people go back and forth. I'm like, how do you do that?
All day.
This does not, I can't.
All day. And like, I love it when, you know, my friend Allie, she has probably sent me over 200 TikToks that I have not watched. But that's like how we communicate, because...
But I swear, I want you to keep sending them.
Keep sending them. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to watch them, but I do want to see the notification that you at least thought of me to send it to me. Because I'm like,
I might sit down one day and go on like a bender and watch them all back to back to back to back to back.
For a couple hours. And then I'm going to reply to each individual one so that we can have the conversation.
Yeah, and I'm going to spam your phone for an hour.
Yeah.
It's just such a weird thing. Like, it's a personality type.
There's a song, and I heard it maybe like 6 months ago, and it's by, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, Ruel, Ruel, and it's called Growing Up Is, and it's just a blank. And he goes through these phases in the song, and I think his main one is like, growing up is weird. But he goes, and he really does like break that down, and I heard that, and I was like, that's so relatable, because you do go through those phases. And so if you haven't heard it, go listen to it.
It is even harder as an adult, though. I struggled with it in high school. Like, don't get me wrong, because if anybody's like trying to fact check me, like, I have hung out with groups of friends. I have some pictures with groups of friends. I've never been in said group and felt like I belonged. Like, I've never felt like I was seen and appreciated for who I was. And maybe that's a misstep on my part. And maybe it means maybe it means I'm just not in the right spot. And I think that's the thing. It's like my mission.
Well, you have to figure it out which is it.
I have a little bit of both. I have a little bit of both.
That's okay.
But with where I stand today, I think I've said this to you countless times in the last year, where my mission is to find where I belong. Yeah. Like, like, what's the one thing everybody craves is connection. Community. You need it. It is vital. Like, that's why, you know, remote jobs are great, because you can work from anywhere. I can do anything I want throughout the day. Love it. But sitting by myself in my apartment, literally not speaking for days on end. And then I'm like, whoa. I just still talk. Cave. Right. It's like hearing your voice for the first time. Scare yourself. Yeah. Because you need that connection and that community. It's vital. That's the point of, I feel like,
being humans and being alive is to have connections with others.
Too many unfun friends out there. We gotta, maybe we'll start like a remote working group just for those people, and we can all come together and be unfun together.
You could be onto something. Theunfunfriend.com.
Well, and I think it kind of goes hand in hand with like the people that maybe you were part of a big group at one time, and then you grow apart from those people.
And like friends come in phases.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah. And there's like this breakdown, and I think it goes hand in hand. Like you're maturing. As you're maturing, you're changing. You're not necessarily meeting any new people because you're not going to any new places to meet new people. And then, next thing you know, you look up and like somehow other people have managed to maintain these big friend groups. And I'm sitting here like, shit.
Like how? I was telling you the other day, my friend Allie, it was her birthday and they all went out to dinner. And I was like, huh. I wish I had that. And then I was like, oh shit, there's my whole group that I am not a part of. And it's, it's tough.
It is. But I mean,
I would definitely have quality over quantity, but sometimes quantity is nice. Sometimes it's nice to have, just those other people in your life to do things with.
How do you maintain quality with a healthy balance of quantity?
That is the
question.
Know
what it might be, actually? We don't have hobbies anymore. This is something, wow, I didn't know I was going to get into this, but
no, I'm so glad you did, though.
Let's light this shit up. Because I'm so passionate about this, where, like, we have these phones, and, like, I'm trying so hard not to be that girl that's anti-technology, but the universe is making it hard on me. Because here's the thing. You give us a phone, you give us a bunch of apps, you give us Netflix, you give us all these computers and gadgets and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, we don't need hobbies because we're never bored.
Well, it's crazy. I went to go get my hair cut, and like this, I promise this is going to tie in. I went to go get my hair cut, and there was like a baby in a stroller, and the mom just gave it an iPad because like it's just to silence them. Right.
Yeah.
And it's because it's entertaining to them. And while you're in the, environment, I don't really want to hear a screaming baby.
Sure.
But somebody asked me, like, what do you like to do? And I was stunned, flabbergasted. I had no answer because I was like, I don't know. I was like, I go to the gym. Is that a hobby? I don't know. Guess. I remember the things that I loved doing growing up. I loved horseback riding. I loved being able to go out and go for a swim. Like I loved anything in nature. I loved, this is such a random hobby, if you can call it that. Do you remember those little bead things and you would make a design and iron them?
Yes.
Emily, I had a business.
That's a hobby.
I would lay out in this room and I'm talking tens of thousands of beads, but like I would do it for hours and I genuinely loved it. But it was like a hobby and it was something so fun and like just Sudoku. I love Sudoku. And
I love it.
When was the last time I did it?
I actually don't think it's called Sudoku, though. I think it's Sudoku. Have you been saying this wrong your whole life?
Have you been saying it wrong your whole life?
No, go ahead, fact check me. I always say Sudoku. Everybody please hold while we fact check and see who's right. You're going to have to spell it.
Hang on. Pronunciation. Well, it'll hear this, right?
Yeah, just don't get too close to the mic.
Sudoku.
Ooh, that's me, girl. You lost.
Sudoku? What did I say? Sudoku.
I don't even know what you said.
I don't either.
Sudoku? You said Sudoku.
Sudoku. Yeah. Either way, everyone knows there's 9 little squares. You pick the numbers. But it's like it was something to do. But now if someone's like, what are your hobbies? My day consists of literally, I wake up. My work is different. It's not the cubicle. So like, I guess you could consider it a hobby-ish. I go to the gym and I come home and I eat and I watch TV. But the screen time, when I get that little notification every week, humbles me.
Peeking at it through one eye, like,
oh yeah. Like I kind of just want to do the thing where you like slide and look, but you don't really look because it'll be like, you were on your phone for 6 hours today. And I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. But I don't go outside. I don't go ride my bike. I don't go do things that I genuinely wish I did. And it's not because I don't have the time or don't have the energy.
I just have my phone. A hobby to be entertained anymore. And that is, it is probably one of the biggest pitfalls of our generation right now.
Yeah.
Is I feel like you see hobbies less and less, and otherwise your hobby, you want to know what it is? It's eating and drinking.
Yep.
That is your social life. And I'm gonna say it right now, right here. In 2024, we're bringing hobbies back.
We're bringing hobbies back.
We're bringing hobbies back.
Put it on a sweatshirt.
Yeah, bring hobbies back. Fuck phones. Listen.
Phones are great. We love technology.
Yeah.
But
okay, we're more connected than ever. Blah blah blah. But we're not. And I think part of that comes down to like, how do you meet friends? You play intramural volleyball, or you join a fishing group, or a running group, or things like that. And those things exist, but I don't feel like it's really what is represented well on the internet, right? Like so much.
Because you did a good job there for a while. Like you were really doing a lot of things. I remember we would talk and you were like, I'm doing slacklining, I'm doing volleyball. And I was like, honestly, I was sitting in my apartment. I was like, I'm so jealous of her right now. I'm so for real. But because I was like, she has things that she's doing that are not sitting at home, because you were genuinely really trying to find those hobbies.
And really the thing that shot that in the foot was when I got sick. So for those of you guys that don't know this, I was sick last year. We'll get into that.
We got
not time today, but
not time today.
No, we'll get into that.
Part 2.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's a deep one.
Future Emily segment.
Yeah.
But when I got sick and I lost that, it was a big blow. And that was a really hard thing to get rid of. And I don't think I've really bounced. I mean, I haven't fully bounced back like mentally from that period of my life anyways. I'm definitely getting back into it, but I've realized like shared activities. Like I'm laughing because
it's elementary.
It's so elementary. Like, it is so basic to just say like, we need more hobbies. But how many times are you sitting there with your family? And do you remember when we were kids and you would go outside in the backyard and like kick a soccer ball for no reason, or you would throw a frisbee back and forth, or
it's what you would do while mom and dad were making dinner.
Yeah,
you know?
And like
you go across the street. You remember razor scooters?
Yes,
I had razor scooter shows.
Say, in your neighborhood, how often do you see kids outside playing anymore?
Never. And it's honestly
the saddest thing.
Yeah, because that was the best time. Like, you know, it's obviously in summer there's no school. We would wake up and like my best friend lived across the street. My brother's best friend lived right next to her. And we had a bunch of kids on our street, and we would wake up and we would either go to the park, and then we would all go to the pool, and then we'd have a water balloon fight. We would play hide and seek between 4 different houses. And like, it was just so much fun. And I'm so lucky that I got to have that. And when technology started to come in, there was one time Texas got like frozen, and there was a game, Plants vs. Zombies. We made it into a real life game because we didn't want to be on our phone. We kind of wanted to feel like little kids in that moment because we had a week and we were all sitting in our living room, all on our phones. And we're like, what the fuck are we doing? Dude, so we're like, you know what? Let's make this real. And we would go outside, and it was like your inner child literally got healed that day. It was because it's just like, that's what we're supposed to do.
It feeds so well into a topic I wanted to cover anyways, and I'd rather just talk about them in tandem right now, because the other thing is like finding your purpose and how difficult that is. And it's like, purpose is such a buzzword. Everybody's like, oh, what's my purpose? Blah, blah. Everybody goes through that crisis, right?
Yeah.
But like, if you want to know how to find your purpose, get bored.
Yeah.
And figure out what the heck it is you do when you're bored.
Like, what's going to make you
what stimulates you, what motivates you. And I think not only does that help you start to figure out what you're drawn to and what like interests you, and that gives you something to do that's healthy and exercises your brain, it also is a way to connect with people, and it's a way to stay engaged, and you can combat mental health. And I just think like there's such a benefit to like finding something to do on your own and getting bored and finding that something, not just so-and-so invited me to do it. Put your fucking phone away for 2 seconds, lock it up,
right,
and sit there until you know what you want to do with your time, and get reconnected to that. Like, I hate to talk about it like this, but to that inner child, right? Like that playfulness inside of you and that curiosity. And like, if you go on a walk, look around. What do you notice? What do you see? And I think like every now and then when I'm like going on a jog or something, I'll see like two boys like shooting hoops outside. Okay. Like but it's still on a very rare occasion.
Mm-hmm.
And never do I see adults get together. And maybe part of that is because I live in a city, right? I
Mm-hmm.
don't live near the mountains where you're snowboarding and you're hiking and you're camping all the time. You have all
But
this
I
easy
think even
access
with
to
that,
it.
like life catches up and we forget to do those things. So
And
like
where's the
as
accountability
adults,
for it?
right, it's as adults, it'd be great to go out and do that. But then you get home from work and you're like, okay, if you have a family,
Yeah.
I got to make dinner. I got to, make sure I give attention to my kids. And then I got to check in with the wife or the husband. And then, I have to prepare for tomorrow's work. And so it's hard, but like, it's so important to still take that time for yourself. And
But if you're missing purpose and if you're
purpose,
missing a
yes.
community and if you're feeling like you don't have a sense of belonging,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's because you don't know what you want to do because you're distracted by something else.
Yeah.
Because you're scrolling and seeing what everybody else is doing. Put the phone away, put the computer away, keep the TV off, and just sit there and lay there until you get an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's like or just go out in public and like see what catches your attention. Walk into a couple stores that you've never
Mm-hmm.
been into before. Like seek inspiration out there in the world. And like I think if we were to bring hobbies back, we might actually be able to find friends that
I think
like
people would be happier.
I think we'd be way happier.
Yeah.
And I know it exists. I know it's out there. I do genuinely think it is so much harder in a city. Like, I think that when you are near,
Which is ironic because then it's like, okay, well, it's going to be even harder if you're out in the country, because no one's around. But so
well,
it's
unless it's like running or something.
right,
Is what
right,
I
right.
mean.
But it's ironic that in a city that's full of people, it's difficult.
Yeah. Well, like for example, I I made those bracelets for my friends for
Mhm.
Christmas, and I was like, this is actually fun. Like I would like to make more of these and bring these around
Mhm.
like it and that brought me this weird sense of joy and I felt the community with my friends because when I gave
Yeah,
it to them like now it means something to everybody and whether they wear it or like it or not, I don't really give a crap. But
you have it.
but I have it and I did it
Yeah.
and I have more beads and people my mom's asking me for more and like it
Mhm.
was a way to connect with people. All that happened is I went to Hobby Lobby or Michael's or whatever with my mom to go find like garland to decorate for Christmas and I saw beads and I was like, huh, I want to make a bracelet. And I was like, oh my God, I'll make bracelets for all my friends, which was quite the undertaking. But now looking back on it, I had so much fun doing it. It's like a little hobby. It
Mhm.
gave me something to do. And I wasn't looking at my phone and I
Mhm.
wasn't doing like, I don't know, rotting away in front of a TV. But join a book club, right?
Mhm.
Like, if we want to bring hobbies back in 2024, then just a few ideas. If you're feeling lonely and you're not the fun friend, join a running club, join a
Yeah.
walking club, join a book club, go sit at a park and see what other people do.
There's like even like if you're a foodie, there's
Yeah,
different things that you can go do, and it's
food
literally
groups.
specific for that. It's a food group, or what was it? Painting. If you like painting,
Yeah,
painting with a
painting with a
twist.
twist.
Make a date to go.
If you're like me and you're not the fun friend and you don't know how to find people that you have common interest in, then you probably need to get a little bit bored and you probably need to go figure out what it is you want to do in your free time and try to meet people doing that
Yeah.
and fill your time with something different. I will now hop off my soapbox about that, but I
No, it's a
needed
good
to say
spot for you.
it. Thank you. I have many soapboxes. Oh man. Okay. Well, I do think that we should move off of this topic a little bit for the sake of time, even though I could go on and on about it.
Yes, we will make
But
a continuation.
yeah, it's fine. So there's two last things that I want to cover, and they're
Okay.
very different.
Okay.
The first one, we'll say,
Drum roll.
your positive attitude amidst health struggles. So I had health struggles
Mm-hmm.
and did not go well.
Mm-hmm.
Mental health, like all of it tanked. It was it just, I did not handle it as well as I thought I would.
Yeah.
You have this, like, I don't know, kind of like lightness about you, about life sometimes. Like, even though like things get heavy, like, you have a good, bright energy about you. even in the midst of like health struggles that you've been in for, I don't know, what, 10 years? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So could you speak a little bit, would you mind sharing a little bit about your story and your health struggles, and then how, I don't know, just how you've managed to still be here, basically, because I don't know that I could have handled it. So share a little bit about that, if you will.
So growing up, I always just had like gut health issues, and it got to the point in really high school where I was getting sick and having to go to the ER for it, and they couldn't find anything wrong, and they would just send me home. And so I figured out how to deal with things. And when I was 19, I had broken my ankle for the third time. And, I'm sitting in the hospital bed and I'm about to have my surgery. And I've also had like 10 feet surgery. So I'm real close with John, real close. And that'll loop back in. So, after surgery, I can't walk, I can't do anything. And we're like, okay, well, we might as well take this time to figure out really what's wrong with me. And because, I'm 19, I'm supposed to be having a great life. And I'm just feeling like I'm operating on like a 2. And so I started going to the doctor and started seeing some gut doctors, gastrointestinal doctors, and it kind of just led down this rabbit hole. And long story short, did a bunch of tests for about 7 to 9 months, and then had surgery, had my entire large colon removed. And then I had a complication 2 months later where it twisted on itself, and it got twisted by scar tissue. And so everything past my small intestine where it was twisted was dying. And we didn't find it until it was literally about to kill me. My liver was dying, my kidneys were dying, and they couldn't find anything wrong, and they were going to send me home, and I would have died within 24 hours because it was that advanced. It had been twisted for 2 months and we didn't know. And so luckily my mom was like, no, she's staying here, y'all are going to figure it out. When they saw the twist, I was in surgery within 30 minutes. They took out more of my small intestine, so now I think I have maybe I don't know, 3/4 of a small intestine, something like that. But for those who don't know, you absorb all your nutrients through your large intestine. That's how you stay hydrated. That's how you really break down food. Like your stomach breaks down the food, but to absorb your proteins and your fats, it's through those organs. And now I don't have them. So after surgery, they painted a really pretty picture. And they're like, everything's going to be great. This is kind of how your life is going to work. You'll eat, and this is how you're going to break it down. So, just make sure that you're prepared for these things. And I was like, cool. But then that's not how it went at all. I was chronically ill. I would get a cold and I had to sit in a room by myself for a month because I would get so sick that a simple cold was like having a deathly flu. And I couldn't be around a lot of people. And we eventually found, it did get dark. Like I was very, very depressed because I was like, how is this my life at this point? Now I'm 20. Like I'm supposed to live my whole life like this. I don't want to. And we found a doctor, a functional doctor. And I've been seeing her for almost 6 years now. And, it's a really long process. I'd say in the 6 years, I started to feel better really only around 2 ago. And so it took 4 years to kindly have that positive outlook because I was taking 60 pills a day. I had to drink certain liquids at night and certain in the morning, and so everything revolved around my medicine. I couldn't go on trips. I couldn't go do the things that a 20-year-old should be able to do. And it was really, really tough. Like it was, because then I really wasn't the fun friend because now I can't do anything.
Like, oh, don't mind me. Go pop
I literally have this massive pill container, and it's embarrassing. And so then it really made me retreat into a shell because I didn't want people to see that side. And I think the way that I dealt with it was I was like, which looking back, this was not the best way to deal with it, honestly. I was like, well, there's kids that have cancer and they're dying. And while that is very sad and very true, and that situation is so much worse off than mine, my situation still sucked. Like I can't have kids anymore, and that was taken away from me. It wasn't a choice that I got to make. It was a life or death situation. And I'm glad we did what we did. But part of me wishes we could just go back, pause, and find a different solution. Because there had to be something. So now I think I live with it, and I try and find, for the kid thing, I can adopt. You can do egg harvesting. There's a lot of different things, but I really don't think that I felt healthy and good enough really to live life until I moved out to Florida. And that was a thing that I needed. And a lot of my health issues.
Was at 23, right?
That was 23.
Pivotal moment.
Yeah. And so I think it was just accepting it for what it was. It wasn't fun. It wasn't pretty. But now I have a light about it because I've learned how to manage it. And now I'm healthy enough to where I don't have to take the 60 pills every day. I can take 10 in the morning on one day and maybe don't take any for the rest of the day, because the goal of functional wellness is to build up stores in your body so that it can support itself, because at the moment it couldn't. So we are going to almost overload it. That way, if you forget to take it, it's okay because you have backup in your body. So, but again, that took 4 to 5 years to do. And so it's a slower process, but I think it's a healthier process. I think that the mental struggles I went through all of that could have been a lot worse if I would have done it just the regular, here's a prescription, take it. So now, I get to live a fairly normal life, and I just be careful about what I'm doing, if I'm eating, if I'm drinking, whatever it may be. And, don't let it affect my mental. Now there's days where I feel like shit and I'm like, why is this happening to me? Like, I thought I was done with this. I thought I was done with the bad days. And that's a part of the acceptance of, once a month, I might have a bad day where I can't get out of bed, or if I'm hanging out with a friend and I'm like, I'm so sorry, but like, I can't, find those friends that are okay with that, because that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And when you have that, it makes it feel a lot lighter than it is.
Yeah. So it's kind of having a community of friends and your family, obviously, that support you, and then also just accepting this is what it is.
Yeah, because and it sounds so cliche, but it really does get better. And I think that goes to that goes to relationship issues, that goes to that goes to the fun friend, that everything we've talked about, it really does get better. And in that moment, you can't see it. It's like what you said earlier, the only way you can see it is when you look back. And so in that moment, you can't see that it's going to get better. But now I'm 7 years into this, and every day it did get better, even when it didn't feel like it.
Who do you think you'd be today if that hadn't happened?
Oof. Honestly, I think about that a lot.
Do you really?
I do.
Oh.
Because...
Did I just step on a little?
Because in a weird way, I'm grateful for it. Because it made me into such a strong person. And if I can overcome the things that I did, then, and I said something the other day, and I don't like the saying oh, we can move mountains, because you can't move a fucking mountain. You just can't.
It's definitely not.
It's nature. But you can climb it. Area. Exactly. You can climb it, and you get to the top, and you get to go down. And so it's just, I think that's the mentality that switched for me.
Okay. What do you mean?
Who would I be if it wouldn't have happened? I really don't know, but I'm almost glad that it did, because I got to climb a mountain that I wouldn't have before.
Right.
And I think I would have had a much easier life, and I probably wouldn't appreciate my life and the things that I've done as much. I think I would have still ended up relatively in the same spot in terms of career and probably love life and all that kind of stuff. But we won't even touch that one today. Yeah. But I think that the journey, I'm able to appreciate it more.
Do you think that was it some sort of catalyst for you then? Because if 23 is when things started to shift, did that kind of push you into going to Florida? Did that have any influence on it?
I knew that living in Texas, allergies are really high, and through one of the surgeries, I started to develop lung issues, and so being in Texas literally became bad for me. Right. And moving to Florida, I didn't have those health issues. All of a sudden, I could breathe, and I wouldn't have to use my inhaler all the time. So it definitely had an impact on the decision for it. And it was like, okay, I feel better out here. I might as well move out here and see what can happen. And I did. I did really feel for 2.5 years. I think I had the cleanest scans that I had ever had. I had a couple that were kind of just wonky when I would get sick, and we hadn't figured out a plan of how am I going to get to the doctor every month. But then once we did and we were just rolling, that's the healthiest I've been.
Do you think it impacts the question for, how do you want to be remembered?
Yeah. And I think, it does, because, people that are going through similar situations, like, I want to be inspiring to them. I want them to be, again, if she can get through it, like, it was not easy, and it's still not easy, because in terms of, we'll touch, I guess, really quick on it, like, of finding a partner, that is gonna impact it. Like, am I gonna be able to meet someone that's okay with the things that I have to do? Are they gonna be okay with not having biological children? And so, like, if people are going through that, you do feel so alone, and you're like, why me? Why am I the one that has to go through it? If I can be any sort of comfort to somebody, that's really my purpose in life. And I've always felt that. Like, I wanted to be a doctor because I just wanted to help and I wanted to serve people.
I think one of the turning points in our friendship was when you and I packed it up, went to New Mexico.
Not really knowing each other that well.
Not really knowing each other very well. That was a bold move.
Very.
And you had your medicine. I didn't know what any of it did. I didn't know.
I hadn't ever told anybody. You were one of the first people I told outside of my family.
Yeah. And, like, without giving away much information, like, basically when Shianne has to take medicine, like, there's several different types of medications that require different accommodations, and you know, you have to have everything that you need. And you were scared that, like, I mean, without putting words in your mouth, I think your fear was that I wasn't I was going to find it odd, or that I was going to be annoyed that we needed to accommodate, you know, whatever it was.
It was just needed. Like and it's so not an embarrassing situation, but I was afraid that you were going to be like, oh, that's not somebody that I really want to hang out with, because, like, she has to pause every so often. And if you don't want to pause, that's fine. And so then it was like, I was afraid that you were going to think it was weird or something like that as I whip out a thing of medication.
Yeah, which is so funny, like, looking back on it now. And I think that we all have this, like, fear of, like, not being accepted in a friendship, or, you know, like, some weird medical diagnosis coming in the way of things or whatever. But in our lives, it's something that brought us together. And 100%. So there are so many full circle moments. Like, the reason I asked, like, okay, like, did that launch you into something different? Like, I'm seeing these full circle moments come together where there are things that I think would be so different. I don't know that you and I would be as close as we are today.
Yeah. And it's like, you're going through right now what I went through 5 years ago.
Yeah. And, like, if you look at it, you have to wait for the hindsight. And sometimes that hindsight is 3 weeks. Sometimes it's 3 years, 3 days.
You don't know when it's going to come.
You don't know when that full circle moment is going to come.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the ways that your medical history and the things that you've had to overcome has hopefully had a positive impact on your life, and the friendship that it's given with me and you. I know it's definitely had a positive impact on me, but now hopefully other people as well, is, like, seeing these full circle moments and how, like, wow,
they're
okay,
cool to come by, you know?
They do come by. And sometimes when you're in the very, very middle of it, I'm sorry that I don't have more of an answer for people on how long that's going to last.
Yeah.
But the best part about it is that the results always come.
Yeah. And but guess what? It's a surprise when they do.
It's a surprise. It's always a surprise. And on that note, there are so many more topics we can get into. We're just going to have to do a little, like, you know,
we'll do a mini series.
We'll do a mini series on dating, because that's a tough one. We'll get into that another time, though. But to wrap things up, first of all, thank you so much for sharing about your personal life and your story and everything that you're about and who you are and who you want to become. And I hope that people listen to this and just can have a good understanding of just how genuine and pure you are and how much you want to stay true to yourself and everything that you do. And that's one of my favorite parts about you. And I love that you are just in I feel like everybody that I'm talking to right now is like, this is like a, you know, shout out Equinox, because
shout out.
2 out of my 3 guests so far are Equinox. But, you know, also I just feel like
full circle.
Holy, you gotta be kidding me. But no, I'm really grateful for the friendship that we've gotten to build. And, you know, I hope everybody else could just tell how awesome you are. But,
well, thank you for having me.
Yes. The way that we wrap this up, though, is you have one final question. So we covered part 1. Part 2, this is how we finish it off now. Who do you recommend that I speak to from your own circle who inspires you that you would like to nominate to be a guest on an episode in the future?
My mom.
You think I should meet your
Sunday
mom?
Corley. Sunday Michelle.
Spoiler alert, I've already met her mom, but you guys haven't.
Y'all haven't, and y'all, it's a whirlwind when they're together.
Poor Shianne. Like every now and then I come over and she's like, so I'm gonna go hang out. Like you hang out with my
I sit by myself and they're just going, I'm like, hello.
I'm so
But I think that there's a lot of really, really good things between y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool to see different sides.
Yeah.
That I don't get to see.
You're so much more like your dad now.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny. Well, like you're so much.
We talked about this. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We'll tell you guys the last bit of secret, and then we'll hop off of here. But basically, when Shianne is not with her mom, she acts just like her mom, and then when she is with her mom, she acts like her dad. It's the weirdest thing, and I love it.
Yeah,
because you get to see how you were like. You see the two people that you were raised by and who you are, and it really shines, and it's testament to how great they are because they raised a great daughter. So. Anyways, thank you so much. Thanks, guys, for listening. And we'll see Sunday on here soon.
Okay.
Okay. And to wrap things up, this is the part where I have to give the disclaimer that the I Think You Should Meet podcast and its content posted by me, Emily Curry, are presented solely for general informational and entertainment purposes. The use of information on this podcast or materials linked from this podcast is at the user's own risk. This podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, or mental health practitioner. Users should seek the advice and assistance of their healthcare professionals on any related medical or mental health conditions and should not delay or disregard obtaining any such assistance. All right, that's it for today's episode. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in.